Good morning, and what a day it's going to be. And I will say in advance that there are a few things that I'm going to be saying that already Denise has made some mention of, but there will be some overlap today. But I'm starting with basically a slide that I love to start most of my presentations with. And it's a slide that gives me a lot of, well, I think it's actually quite poignant for today and for many of the conversations that I engage in. It started actually with a designer by the name of Bruce back in Canada, who was actually my first designer friend that I got to know about 25 years ago. And I found myself in his kitchen a number of times. On the kitchen table, he would do all kinds of doodles and drawings, and he would actually tell me about this world of design. Now, my background before that was really in the visual arts, in all kinds of innovative areas, from photography to film through architecture. But it was Bruce who really gave me some insights into the world of design and sparked my interest and my passion. In fact, one of the things that he would say often was that design is an optimistic pursuit. It's about changing things for the good. And he was always an optimist, and I have to say that really sat well with me. Bruce became a bit famous over time, and as a Canadian, moved to the States, did a fairly big project called Massive Change. And he came up with a phrase which was, it's not about the design, the world of design, it's about the design of the world. And that was a flip that started to happen in terms of a lot of design was seen as things that were beautiful for the home, things that would make your life more luxurious. But in fact, what's really, I guess, the transformation that's happened is the movement towards being able to design the world to be a better place. Now, what I'm going to try to do today, three things. One, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Object Australian Design Centre and what we're trying to do to broaden the definition of design. Two, I want to maybe speak to four key issues that I think are really going to impact on universal design. And three, I've got three key areas that I think we need to leverage and to really bring forward to ensure that universal design is able to make some great impact in the years ahead. So I'm going to start by offering up an admission, and this is a hard one, and I've decided to go this personal because I think the journey that I've gone through in the last 7 weeks since Robin sent me an email and suggested my coming on and having doing a presentation, a lightning talk, so I need to be quick about this, but my admission is that I actually didn't know very much about cerebral palsy. In fact, I didn't know very much about universal design. And as one of the key champions in Australia, I was actually quite taken back by how I'd come to know so little about it. In fact, I was embarrassed. I was, in fact, really afraid to say it out loud. But that is part of my admission, and I'm saying it because there are so many of us who need to engage with universal design and the thoughts that actually motivate success in the area. I started by, and it was a wonderful journey, and I thank Robin for the invitation because what it started me on was a journey of investigation and research. I read several books, I got online, read all kinds of articles, and in the end found myself really engaged with a topic that I probably had spent less time on than I really should have. The one book that I thought was absolutely sensational was a book by Graham Pullen called Design Meets Disability. It's an extraordinary book, and it took me on probably the most engaging, and I will say passionate journey about where design and disability can come together. It has actually, there are probably 10 chapters within it that each of them could be a separate talk about how one can look at how design can meet disability. Now, in terms of the Australian Design Centre, over the last 50 years, the centre has primarily focused on the world of design. But in the last 5 years, I think we've really started to shift to look at the design of the world. Now, these run in parallel. We've done some great exhibitions that cover all kinds of territory, but it was really only in recent times, and this particular exhibition called CUSP, Designing into the Next Decade. This exhibition is currently on tour across the country. It's in Dubbo right now and will travel for the next couple of years. This exhibition started to look at other issues within how we can design the world. It has everything from sustainable architecture through to sustainable fashion. But also, it looks at issues like how do we in fact, humanize medical technologies? How do we consider the opportunities that exist in terms of health, in terms of developing better living environments? How can we create devices that take pain and anxiety that young children are facing when they're in hospital, and they can evolve into a much better place around their experience in the hospital? So this exhibition started looking at things that really were about how can we design the world around us. Now, I move on to what I consider the sort of 4 impactful areas or issues or even trends that I think are significant in terms of how they will impact on universal design. The first one, and it's the one that has actually brought me on an incredible journey as well, is the Winter Paralympics. In the Winter Paralympics, compared to the Summer Paralympics, you have more use of technology. In fact, every single sport, there is some kind of aid or assistance that is required. And the Paralympics have actually become this beautiful ground for the development of new technologies. You have Dyson, you have Boeing, starting to invest in the hybrid technologies that are required in these sports. I think that what is also great is that they've become more mainstream. All of a sudden, they're being broadcast by international broadcasters. We're seeing these sports played out in the public arena in a way that hasn't been before. But key to it is the technology that's being developed is trickling down. The leaps and the incredible opportunities that exist in these developments of technology around the Paralympic sports has actually led to some really good and positive outcomes for mainstream design. Now that's an image that I chose for trend number 2. And I chose that one because the other images just didn't play out well, but it's actually about what's called the new aged age. Those that are actually approaching 80 and over. They say by 2020, the increase in the aged age will increase by 300%. And I believe that this is going to have a significant impact on the development and influence around universal design. It's because this new generation is going to move into a place where they're actually going to come into a disability. They're going to lose an ability that they had before, and they're going to want to have the devices, the support, the technology around them that actually allows them to live a full life. This aged age is going to put a pressure on industry, on government, on education to be able to see things that will change the marketplace to ensure that there is the support within that group. Again, I believe that's going to then hit an approach or a hit on universal design. The third one is one I could talk about for so long, and it's actually all around design-led innovation or design thinking. Now, we're seeing this happen in business, in education. We're seeing hackathons, design-a-thons. We're seeing service jams and health jams and government jams. We're seeing fab labs. We're seeing this beautiful development of individuals who are actually coming together to try to solve problems. It's a complete new way of thinking, and it starts with one key aspect of the design, what I call design thinking toolkit, and that's empathy. The ability to really look and delve down deep into the questions that actually will drive the solutions for design. The issue about design-led innovation, design thinking for me, is that too often the process happens, or actually I'll give you the example that I've come away with, is we've been doing some work with a major telecommunications company in Australia. And that particular company, what I found really interesting was the number of products that were created without actually any engagement with the end user. It was up to the marketing department to put it in the hands of the end user and to get them engaged with that product. Companies can't survive that way. No one can survive that way, and I think that's why design-led innovation has become so important, and that end user research becomes a key factor within the future of design. Denise mentioned wearables, the new technologies that are developing, and they are vast and many, and I think this is going to have such a huge impact, again, on universal design. And it's partly because of the amount of money that's being invested in all kinds of technologies. There is a gap. I absolutely recognize that we are developing apps that aren't for everyone. But actually, if we had the right brief, if we went back to that design-led innovation process, and we actually concentrated on the brief with the end user, we would have better briefs that would inform mainstream designers to be thinking about all aspects of design to make things universal. This one with Google Glass is actually a nominated design piece that is part of the 2014 Sydney Design Awards. And this particular group have created a Google app which allows Google Glass to be adapted in such a way so that when you're walking through a grocery store, that you're able to actually have the product, you'll hear a voice activation which will tell you what the product is, or it will guide you to the product within the store. And again, this is just one of many nominations for the Sydney Design Awards. This one came across my desk just this last week. This is from MIT in Boston. And this is a ring that actually will read the text of a book to you. It's 3D printed, which actually leads me to my most favorite aspect of new technology and design, and that is 3D printing. I think this is where this is the sweet spot of where I think we have some major, opportunities within universal design. And it's about mass customization. We're going to be in a position where we'll be able to tailor a design around our specific needs and be able to print in our homes the elements or the pieces that we need to actually create the full design for ourselves. Now the three factors, and just to wind this up, is to say that I think the shift of consciousness is one of the key ones. And that's why I did my admission and said how little I knew and how much I've come to know. And that shift of consciousness, I think, is because of something through things like the Design-a-thon. So in fact, I think that by bringing people together, by the Cerebral Palsy Alliance taking the initiative, by the worldwide initiatives that are happening in terms of Enabled by Design and the various Design-a-thons, that is actually shifting the consciousness within the mainstream. Curriculum. I mentioned Pullen's book, and I think that needs to be at the very core of education practice. I think any design student needs to be reading that along with all the other things that they're looking at in terms of design. We need to ensure that designers in their education are understanding how this is a key component of what they need to know when they design anything, that they're actually taking into consideration all aspects of what need to be addressed in design. And finally, it comes back to the end user. This is where we need to gather carers, we need to gather therapists, we need to gather those who are the actual end user of the product and bring them together and have them involved in the design process. And that means getting them involved in the brief that so often I see students in so many universities going online and finding out all this information about this issue or that issue, whether it be Alzheimer's or something else, and they've found it online, and there's some good information online, but it's not enough. We need to talk to people. We need to talk to the people who actually need to be able to use that product. In fact, 67% of those end users of products, according to the Center for Excellence in Universal Design, 67% either feel disengaged with the product or it's just not of use to them. Now, that's a big number, but I look on the optimistic side. It's 33% are working. So let's find out what is working. What got products to a point where they were valuable to a much broader range of end user. But ultimately, it is about the conversation with the end user. Now, this talk was not, I have to say, it was a challenging talk for me to put together, partly because I felt I knew so little. And a couple of weeks ago, I found myself in a museum, which is where I often take myself when I am sort of struggling with an issue or an idea, and I was walking around that museum looking at things, but I was thinking pretty much through all of it about this particular talk coming up. And one of my favorite pieces at the Museum of Old and New Art, Mona in Hobart, is by Julius Popp, and a piece called Bitmap. And it looks at basically headlines in the Australian news come trickling down in water, and you never know what word's going to come, but these are sort of the top words in the news at the time. And so you have your camera, you're shooting away, don't know what word, and of course disability comes up, it appears, and it falls away. And all I can say for me, that was a real moment of going, this is actually the beginning of my journey with universal design. And I'm very thankful to the invitation from Robin at the very beginning. Thank you very much.